The sun was setting behind the small village of Noorabad, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Among the narrow dusty lanes, a boy named Arman walked barefoot, his old torn bag hanging loosely over his shoulder. His pockets were empty, but his eyes were full of dreams that no poverty could ever steal. Arman lived with his mother in a small hut made of mud and straw. His father had passed away when he was just 7 years old, and since then, life had been a constant struggle. His mother worked as a maid in the nearby houses, earning just enough to buy food for the day. There were nights when Arman slept on an empty stomach, but hunger never broke his spirit. What scared him wasn't the pain of being poor, but the fear of never being able to change his life. Every morning, before the sun even rose, Arman would go to the bus stop to sell newspapers. The coins he earned jingled softly in his pocket, tiny sounds that reminded him that he was fighting for something bigger. While his classmates talked about toys or shoes, Arman dreamed of becoming someone who could change the world. He didn't know how it would happen, but deep inside, he believed it would. His dreams were his biggest treasure. One afternoon, after selling all his papers, Arman sat near the railway track and watched a train speed by. People inside were dressed nicely, reading newspapers or talking on phones. They looked confident, busy, and successful. He looked at them with quiet admiration and whispered to himself, "One day, I'll be on that train too, not as a poor boy selling papers, but as someone people respect." He didn't know where life would take him, but he had already made a promise to himself: he would never give up, no matter how hard life became. At school, Arman wasn't the top student, but he had something that most others didn't: focus. He paid attention to every word his teachers said, even when he was tired or hungry. His classmates laughed at his torn uniform and broken sandals, but he never responded. He knew that their laughter couldn't stop him from dreaming. One day, his teacher, Mr. Rahman, noticed his dedication. After class, he called Arman and said, "You remind me of a boy I once taught. He was poor too, but he believed in himself so much that the world had no choice but to believe in him. You can do the same, Arman." Those words stayed in Arman's heart forever. That night, he opened his old notebook and wrote, "I will build something that helps poor kids study for free." Every day, he continued his small steps toward his dream. He saved coins, studied late into the night, and helped his mother at home. He knew that one day, these small steps would lead to something great. His mother often told him, "Arman, you need to rest, my son." But he would smile and reply, "Ami, rest will come when our struggle is over." His determination made his mother proud, even when life felt unbearable. One evening, while selling newspapers at the bus stop, a man in a suit bought a copy from him. The man looked at him curiously and asked, "You sell newspapers every day, don't you ever get tired?" Arman smiled and said, "Sir, I'm not just selling papers. I'm collecting dreams." The man was surprised by his answer. He handed Arman his business card and said, "If you ever need help with your studies, come to my office." Arman looked at the card with wide eyes. It wasn't just a piece of paper, it was hope. He kept it safe in his bag like a treasure. Months turned into years, and Arman continued his journey. People often told him, "You're poor, Arman. People like us can't think big." But every time he heard those words, he repeated his favorite line, "Thinking big is free, and it's the first step to becoming free." Those words became his belief, his fuel, his identity. He worked harder than ever before, knowing that the power of thinking big was the only thing separating him from the life he dreamed of. He didn't have money, he didn't have privilege, but he had belief, and that was enough. That belief became the seed of his destiny. Arman didn't know it yet, but one day, that seed would grow into something so powerful that it would not only change his life but also inspire thousands of others to dream beyond their circumstances. The boy with empty pockets was slowly turning into a man whose biggest wealth was his mindset, the mindset to dream without fear and to think big even when the world told him not to. Years passed like pages of a storybook, each one written with Arman's struggles, failures, and small victories. The boy who once sold newspapers at the bus stop had now turned into a young man filled with purpose. The world still called him poor, but inside, he knew he was rich in dreams. Arman had completed his schooling with excellent marks, earning a scholarship to a city college. Leaving his small village behind, he stepped into a world full of opportunities and challenges he had never imagined. The city was fast, loud, and unforgiving. People were always in a rush, and no one cared who you were or where you came from. But Arman didn't let that discourage him. He remembered his promise to his mother and to himself, that one day, he would build something big enough to lift others like him out of poverty. Life in the city wasn't easy. His scholarship covered tuition, but not rent or food. To survive, he worked in a small restaurant after classes, washing dishes and cleaning tables until midnight. His classmates came from rich families, wore expensive clothes, and carried the latest phones, while Arman used a second-hand backpack and an old pair of shoes. Sometimes, he felt the sting of comparison, but he would remind himself, "I'm not behind, I'm just starting from a different place." That simple thought gave him strength to keep going. During his free hours, he spent time in the public library. He read books about successful people, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, and Abdul Sattar Eddy, trying to learn how great minds think. He started believing that success wasn't about luck or money, it was about vision and effort. One day, while browsing online, he discovered free courses on business, technology, and leadership. That became his new classroom. He couldn't afford a laptop, so he borrowed the library computer every night until closing time, typing ideas furiously, learning how to create something of his own. But life had its way of testing him. One month, he lost his part-time job, and with no money left for rent, he was forced to sleep at the bus station. The nights were cold, and his stomach often growled with hunger. Yet, as he looked at the stars, he whispered, "God, I've come this far. Don't let my dream die tonight." Instead of crying, he took out his notebook and began writing. That night, he outlined the idea that would one day change his life, an online platform that would give free education to children who couldn't afford it. He named it Dream Build. Arman had no money to hire developers, so he decided to learn coding himself. For months, he worked as a cleaner at a cyber cafe in exchange for computer time. He read tutorials, practiced late into the night, and kept improving the platform. His friends mocked him, calling him crazy. "Who's going to use a free site for poor kids?" They laughed, but Arman only smiled. "One day, the whole world will," he said. Slowly, Dream Build started taking shape. The website wasn't fancy, but it was powerful. It allowed students to access free lessons, quizzes, and videos made by volunteer teachers. For the first few months, no one noticed it. Then one day, a well-known businessman named Mr. Tariq discovered the platform. He was so impressed that he called Arman to his office and said, "Young man, what you've built is extraordinary. I want to help you grow it." That moment changed everything. With funding and mentorship, Dream Build expanded rapidly. Within a few years, it reached thousands of children across Pakistan and beyond. News channels covered Arman's story, from a poor paperboy to a tech visionary. He stood on big stages, sharing his journey, but never forgot where he came from. Whenever someone asked him the secret of his success, he said, "The world told me to think small, but I chose to think big." That's all. At the grand opening of the Dream Build Foundation headquarters, Arman stood before a crowd of students, teachers, and his proud mother. With tears in her eyes, she watched her son speak confidently on stage. "When I was a boy," Arman said, "I had empty pockets but a full mind. I believed that my dreams were bigger than my circumstances. If you can think it, you can build it. Don't let your background limit your future." The audience applauded as his mother smiled, realizing that all the years of pain had finally turned into purpose. Later that evening, Arman visited his old village. He walked to the same railway track where he once dreamed of being on the train. As he watched the carriages rush by, he smiled and whispered, "I made it. But my dream doesn't end here, it begins with everyone who dares to think big." And in that quiet moment, the poor boy with empty pockets became a symbol of hope for every soul who believed that no dream is too big when your faith is bigger.